Hi, welcome back to Unqualified Critics with Travis and Matt. Tonight, Matt, Jonathan Coburn, my dad, and I all went and watched another mystery movie at the Regal Cinemas in Dublin. It ended up being one of the latest reimagining of the most famous vampire movie of all time. We just watched an early release, Dracula, A Love Tale. This one was directed by Luke Besson.
When you think of Besson, you think a spectacle films like The Fifth Element, which I actually just watched last week, Lucy and Leon. So we knew going in that this wasn't going to be your standard horror film.
Yeah, I thought the casting was pretty fascinating. I had seen this movie a while back called The Outpost, and it had Caleb Landry Jones in that movie. He also was in American Made and also had a role in No Country for Old Men. And he ended up being cast in the role as Count Dracula.
Yeah, and opposite him, we had Zoe Blue, and the heavyweight Christoph Waltz, who we all know and love from *Inglorious Bastards*, Django Unchained, and *The Legend of Tarzan*.
Yeah, he's hands down literally one of my favorite actors. So
Same.
when I saw him in this, I had high hopes for the movie. And we'll talk about him a little bit later on. But Matt, recap a little bit the beginning of this movie. Like how did it start? What were you feeling about it?
Yeah, so it started about 400 years in the past, in Eastern Europe. I thought it had to do like with Vlad the Impaler, just based off the beginning, because I didn't really know what it was. And then there was just, there was wars and there was priests, and it was just like a really interesting beginning. And then all of a sudden, like it came to the present, and it was a whole different type of story than I thought it was going to be.
It did bounce between the present and the past quite often, either through visions or they would just take you back to kind of explain something. But at the beginning, essentially, the prince, they did some foreshadowing with this romance that he had with his wife, and then they were getting attacked, and he had to go, to fight for his kingdom. And while he was out fighting for his kingdom, his they put his wife on some horses and sent her into the forest, kind of to get her away from the fight. And it turns out that the army that they were competing against or fighting kind of knew they were gonna do that, and they ended up killing her, right?
Yeah, like an
And,
ambush.
and then he came back and he was arguing with the priest, kinda like, "Why did you take my wife from me? Why did you take my wife from me?" He ended up killing the priest, right?
Yeah.
And then after he killed the priest, that's when it fast forwarded, 400 years in the future, and it turns out that God had cast some sort of spell on him and turned him into Dracula and made him live throughout all time, kind of as punishment, right, for killing this priest. That's kinda
hmm
how the story went, and what were your thoughts on that?
I thought it was a super interesting take. I thought it was a good movie. It probably wasn't my favorite Dracula movie I've seen. I thought I've seen some other better ones, but I thought it was a super interesting take. I thought throughout the whole storyline, it's kind of explained things that were going on, but I thought some other times it was kind of cheesy. Some of the fight scenes towards the end were a little cheesy. There was gargoyles and things like that. Like some things didn't make sense into it. But the acting I thought was pretty good for the most part. The whole priest thing, and it was kind of like exorcisms, and it was a weird. It was hard to know what it was at first until you started to really watch it.
Yeah, overall, I thought, you know, e I thought the Dracula character in this movie wasn't necessarily like a bad person. He just
Yeah.
really loved his wife. His wife got taken from him. He kinda took that out on God because that's who he attached blame to, and then he got kinda sentenced to life, forever in eternity, and even throughout the film, right, they kinda talked about, he didn't even like killing people. He didn't like biting people on the neck, or he wasn't like a murderer necessarily, other than what he needed to survive. But he did change a couple people into vampires. But what he was doing was sending them out to look for his wife because he had this vision, or he thought his wife was still alive or reincarnated in a different person in the future. And so he spent 400 years searching for her, and so that was the one thing that I took from the movie is it was a totally different Dracula story.
Yeah,
He
he wasn't a bad
definitely,
guy.
he didn't really kill people for sport. He didn't kill people, uh, he didn't like overkill people. the first time we saw him as Dracula, he was really withered down. He was, his face, he looked old, and he said the only way he can get back to normal is if he drinks blood or whatever. And so he kind of was cruising around the whole movie, in this withered state. And he only came back to kind of like the younger self once he ended up finding his wife, like halfway through the movie. So I just thought it was a weird take on Dracula. I agree. I thought the gargoyle scene was pretty stupid, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was kind of
It
random
was
scenes at the end. I do
that was
want to
hard to
say that.
watch. Yeah, that
Well, I was gonna say when he was old, he did kind of look like the Sith Lord from Star Wars.
yeah, that was
I don't
kind
know
of
if you
weird, that
thought that
kind of
at all.
hairdo. Um
Yeah, the
trying to think
hairdo.
about
It was a weird Dracula.
Yeah, trying to think about positives from the movie, honestly, I thought that first fight scene was really cool. I mean, I thought it had a lot going on at the beginning, all of the like, how long it took him to put on the armor at the beginning. It had a lot of positives at the beginning, and then it just took this weird spiral. The fight scene at the end with the gargoyles, and they were, like, doing UFC fighting moves against, like, knights. I mean, it was just kinda dumb, to be honest with you. Even the ending was kinda dumb, and I gotta be honest, like, the coolest part about the movie, though, was Christoph Waltz. I still thought he brought a lot to the movie. I thought he saved the movie. I
Yeah,
love
definitely.
watching him in Quentin Tarantino movies, some of the conversations that he gets in, like, some of the conversations he got in Inglourious Bastards, for example. He does similar type conversations in this movie. The interesting thing about this one, he actually played like a really good guy. Like he was a priest. He was the one trying to like save the day. And usually he plays these other type characters, right? What do you think about that with him?
Yeah, honestly, at first with the movie starting and everything, I wasn't that excited about it until I saw him come in,
Hmm.
and then just based off of other movies, I knew it wasn't gonna be that bad of a movie.
Yeah.
Kinda was I was like, "Alright." Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, when you saw him, you're like, "Okay, well, I know this guy's not gonna be in a bad movie." So, yeah, it had to be good. But yeah, it was interesting, especially when he goes from, the guy he was in Inglourious Bastards, to the guy who's trying to be the hero, and eventually the guy who is the hero without trying to spoil it or anything. But, he played a way different part, but he definitely added a lot to it. I definitely think his role kinda did save the movie, like you just mentioned.
Yeah, I thought the costumes were really great. I thought the scenery was really great. I thought the acting, even though I thought the script was kind of dumb in some spots, I did actually think the acting was pretty good from most of the characters in the movie. I just think they could have went a different route a little bit with it, but like we said at the beginning, it was a different rendition of the Dracula story, right? And
Yeah.
overall, Christoph Waltz was in it. The acting was pretty good. The costumes were good. The scenery was good. Overall, so with this one, I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5 if I'm
Same.
rating it. Like last week I gave a 5 out of 5. This one wasn't even close. But I
No,
thought it was
it was
fun.
a yeah, it was a 3.5.
Yeah, it was fun. It was worth it to go. I thought it was worth the 2 hours. I would say go watch this as like a matinee movie. Don't spend $25, spend $13 or whatever. But overall, it probably is worth watching. I enjoyed going. It was a pretty cool movie to have pop up in the mystery movie. So
And 2,
overall, positive. Not the worst movie I've seen, not the best.
I was gonna say shout out Regal that they, put out a movie that really hasn't been in theaters yet, so we kinda got a sneak peek at this movie. We noticed that when some people mentioned that, they didn't really know the movie was out yet, but it wasn't. It was just part of the Monday Mystery Movie, so that is one of the perks of doing the Monday Mystery
Yeah,
Movies. You get to see things like
I
that.
thought it was pretty cool that my dad came with us and Jonathan Coburn, one of my past clients, came with us who went to the Finners Bears game with me and you last year. And
Yeah.
hopefully next week we'll get a bigger crew to come out and watch it and review some more movies. I'm pumped that we got to show this so that some other people, I know one of our agents that works with us, Skylar, I know she really wanted to see this movie. So sorry to disappoint. I'll let you know, Skylar, like I said, it's worth it to go. Okay. Don't get your hopes up. There are some positives, but it's not the best. It's not the worst. Okay.
Mhm.
Matt, I really enjoyed our conversation once again tonight. Remember, we are unqualified critics and don't take everything we say as if it's the final thing. This is just our thoughts on the whole take on the movie, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yep. Thank you for having me. It was a great talk.
All right. See you next Monday, Matt.
See you next Monday.
All right.